to Healthy Talks. I'm your host, Julie, and today we are with the wonderful Nurse Jacqueline, who is a registered nurse here in Cape Town, as well as a midwife. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to meet with us. Like we just discussed, it's a great platform to have nurses like you to have your voices heard on a podcast and get the real stories and the true nature of what goes into healthcare.
Definitely.
So tell me, Jacqueline, what inspired you to go from copywriting to pursue a career in nursing and midwifery? And how did your time at Radikotsa Hospital shape your professional journey?
Yeah, so my journey to nursing wasn't a conventional one. I did mainly corporate work before. I studied digital and copywriting, and I did that for a few years. I also lived in London for a little bit,
Okay.
and being young. And while I was in London, I actually worked for a social development that dealt a lot with underprivileged people, getting them off the street. And that was really where my passion kind of started. I thought, this is what I really enjoy. I want to help. I don't want to sit
Mm,
there making money for some person. I really trying to help the out through a time. And I came back to South Africa, and I thought about doing physiotherapy first. I'm really passionate about the biology
mm,
and anatomy, but I didn't take science at school. So that so in nursing you don't need to take. I mean, it's a little bit different because obviously generations of us studied later, but
yes.
I think now like modules and stuff, but you have to have some sort of science in trickier. And I only did biology. And then a friend of mine said, well, I think you'll be a pretty good nurse. Like, you're quite caring. It's an active job, which I like. It's critical thinking.
Correct.
So I was like, okay, yeah, let me look into this nursing thing. And I looked into it, and I was just very lucky. Stellenbosch University was a program in nursing and midwifery. I applied and I did the interview and I got in.
And now here you are today.
Now here I am today, and it's an unconventional start, but I wouldn't take anything away because I think I'm a lot mature now.
Mm.
So days of being young and carefree, and I'm very dedicated now to healthcare sector. So yeah, unconventional, but best decision I ever made.
Unconventional, but very rewarding.
Very especially being a midwife. Like there's nothing that can compare to seeing how happy a family can be from the birth of the baby. I've cried many times over it.
I can only imagine, like
Yeah.
helping new life come into the world.
Yes, yeah, and just seeing the like happiness and the joy that it can bring. Nursing can obviously like healthcare in general, a lot of sick sadness, health issues,
Mm.
weigh you down a lot. So especially being in more nursing side, it's a lot way like that. So,
Mm.
but I do know the other side of it, which is death and sadness.
No, definitely. There are ups and downs in both.
Yes, I mean also like in midwifery, there are still bad
Mm.
you have hard moments as well where babies don't make it.
Oh gosh. I can't even imagine the emotional devastation you have to go through when it's a situation like that.
Yeah, it's so like you get so as a nurse, it, a baby will never really, in my experience, die just all of a sudden. There's like a cause.
Mm.
So most of the time as a midwife, monitoring baby, to see if there's any abnormalities that could cause a stillbirth or like that. So you are kind of a little bit more scared if you know, especially nowadays with taking check the cervix, is the uterus favorable? So getting stillbirths is less common than it used to be, but it still does happen on a rare occasion.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like we just mentioned now, like you've been managing a diverse patient mix, including surgical, medical, pediatric, and psychiatric cases, and that must have been extremely challenging. Can you share a particularly memorable experience and how you handled that?
Yes. I mean, working in a rural hospital, I don't know what listeners are going to be listening, but in South Africa, a rural hospital is a large catchment area with usually under-resourced, underfunded hospitals. And you have to really think outside the box sometimes to just get by with your work. And a memorable time for me was kind of like I'm going to lean more onto the midwifery side because it's mixed. I was in the ward and it was pediatric, surgical, psychiatric, and labor. It's all in one ward.
Yes.
That's how it happened. So I just remember being, I was delivering one baby, and then the other antenatal patient that I had, she was going into labor. Now I'm kind of in between two different laboring patients, both actively birthing, and I just remember my team members, like the other sister, like I said, the other sister, I can't deliver the baby. And the teamwork that came together, like I really loved work in rural. An immense amount of pressure. We're under resourced. Came to me, helped me. So in South Africa, we've got auxiliary nurses and staff nurses. They all were just, and that's what I think healthcare should be about. It should be about everybody they work together, working same goal to get whatever, if it's a mother and a child, or if it's an elderly patient, active patient, everyone's got to work together to be like, what are the goals together? And that was just like a real moment where we managed 2 babies with basically 1 midwife, and both mama and baby were happy and happy.
That's great. So at the end, it all worked out.
Yes, no, it did. It was great. It was just like, I've only got 2 hands. But, yeah, the teamwork that I got from there and everyone just put their way together was something that how it should be.
That's right. And with your experience and working in a small rural hospital, how did you adapt your critical thinking and time management skills to meet the demands of a busy emergency center?
Yeah, so I'll give a bit of background. In rural, the doctors are scarce. They leave at 4 o'clock and then they're on call. So from 9 o'clock in the morning until available, they are there, they're physically present. But nurses work 7/7 shifts from o'clock until 7 o'clock. If it was a nighttime shift, there's no doctors, you're on your own. But I would, so the critical thinking has to come from the aspect of you're alone. How are you going to do this? Okay, you're going to, let's just say, like I've had it before, you've got a huge patient load. You've got to all go and constantly keep in with the people triage, like critical, who's not, who do I need to see now, who do I not need to see? Do I need to call the doctor? I don't need to call the doctor for some back pain, but I do need to call the doctor.
Yes.
You constantly like analyzing what is going on with the patient from the emergency. Going through, might come with like, oh, I've got concern. Then you come back half an hour, like, sister, in my back, and then you're like, okay, now this is a little bit more. So let me bring the patient in again, do an ECG, read the ECG, give the doctor the ECG outcome, send it. Luckily nowadays as well with technology, I can confirm with my findings from the doctor. So it's like an MRI, it's not an MRI, whichever. But you have to, because you're alone, and like, who needs? Why did I need? What can I do now?
Yes.
To prevent any like adverse reaction happening. That's I learned a lot working.
That's amazing. And obviously communication is also extremely crucial in nursing, and you have this great copywriting background, but how do you ensure effective communication with patients and their families in a setting with such a diverse patient population?
So yeah, language can be quite a I'm English speaking, but I am quite in Ottoman, and I can speak a little bit of Ethiopian. So the language barrier can be quite tricky sometimes, but communication, I've always believed in just speaking in layman's terms to patients.
Yes.
You're not going to now say, oh, you have hypertension and having a myocardial infarction. Kind of are going to use full basic terms. Your lungs are not working. Your heart is not having a heart attack. So communication to patients and families, so think of them as like non-medical people, and talk to them as if they have absolutely no clue any medical term, and just talk to them down to earth, or like, happening, very what's happening now, this is what we're doing about it, outcome. So you just start keep looping that, like, this is what's happening, getting this.
Yes.
Reiterating that the patient family as simply as you can. It can be hard sometimes because you just do a very good job. But I've seen it many times, especially in a very basic. You think actually you're speaking very basic terms, but to them it's even like by term.
Yes.
Really, because there is a difference between rural and city and more metropolitan urbanization. You really got to, like, in a rural setting, you are sick. This is what we are going to do. After this, we hope you'll be better. And you got to make it simple. The more simple you can make it with a patient, the more.
That's right.
And the more that they are not, I found as well, they're not as scared to come to you. They respect you for get into a little bit of a simple term that they can understand. So
yes,
they trust you, so that you're going to answer their question, not use them even more.
That's right.
Enjoying this episode? Ever thought of starting your own podcast? Podup.com is your go-to. They've got everything you need to run a pro show, including 35 or more AI-powered tools for success. Sign up today for a free starter account and get 15% off with the code HealthETalks15. The code is HealthETalks15. Plus, check out podallies.com for a done-for-you podcasting experience, complete with website, social media, and editing. Start now and let's launch your podcast together.
And also, with being in a rural hospital often means limited resources. What strategies did you to employ to overcome these challenges and provide the best possible care for your patients?
So we are very lucky in the Western Cape. We do have some resources to other provinces, but we are scarce. So, sometimes I'm just trying to think like, you might not have like a cleaning solution. That was something
That's right, yes.
kind of didn't have an alcohol swab. Mix solutions together. Like we had another solution, just trying to get to that area. It's not the best thing, but to make sure that the practice doesn't eye. We also had like rural has a lot of children under 5. That's high number. The elderly.
Yes.
And oftentimes they get diarrhea because not always soap and water to wash their hands. And they get diarrhea, and we didn't usually, like most people that can afford to go to pick will know it's bad rate, something like that. But in the government sector, we do provide something like a rebate, but that was out of stock. And I remember it was a day like where literally every child just came with diarrhea and vomiting. A child diarrhea and vomiting. But we didn't have any salt. We just literally had to measure the salt, table salt.
Yeah, gosh.
Measure the sugar from the kitchen and just put it in boiled water because we wanted to be. I don't know what to do. Boil the water, let it cool, and we were just handing it out to these staff. Do anything to take home, like don't have to.
Yeah.
We just had to, and then we would just write it down for them. We just like mix 2 teaspoons of water with 2 teaspoons of salt and 2 sugar. So we were like making notes for the home and
just educating and making them also aware of what you can do from home stance than being in a clinic.
That's a big part of working in a country like South Africa. You actually want to educate the patient so much so that they don't need to urgently take like stomach pains or diarrhea, unless obviously that's the point of education. You educate them, babies having, volatile vomit, diarrhea, not drinking. If it's like 1 or 2 diarrhea, because diarrhea is quite a common thing in rural settings, then we want to educate them on you don't need to come to a hospital. You're actually not benefiting them at all if they're not sick, because they could be much worse illnesses. TB is like extremely rife in the Western Cape. 80% spread like.
Yes.
So you're bringing a child in that have TB. The point is to try and keep these people out of these. And I think that's a lot of what our South African government push for education. When do you need to?
Yes.
Is it necessary? They can cause them, and then staff get burnt out, resources get out, money gets burnt out. So there's a lot of education and education that must be given almost at a community level.
No, that's right. And Jacqueline, for our last question of you tonight, it was so nice to see the insights of being in a rural setting and seeing what it is like to be a nurse in that. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about going into healthcare or changing their career to nursing just like you did?
I think the advice I would give is definitely have a passion for it.
Definitely.
It's a hard job.
Mm.
Anything else, especially nursing, you're working 12-hour shifts. Majority of the time you're on your probably might not get a lunch break or a tea break. You need to really think about, can your body physically do it? Can your mental state physically stress and the fatigue?
Mm.
And also just have a passion about it. And I would also say, like, I'm such a big advocate. It's not spoken about enough, but transitioning, I went back to university when I was 50. And it was very scary for me because I was the oldest person in my class. And I was like, what am I doing? Is this right?
Mm.
But if you push past that and just get past the fears of society saying you must have your life sorted out when you're this age and that age, then go and do it, because these are your dreams and lifelong. And do what you love, because the majority of us are going to live a very long time.
Yes.
What's the point of sitting and suffering in a job that you hate? You can just do a degree for another 4 years of your life. What's 4 years of your life?
Exactly. What's 4 years compared to the rest of your life? Oh, that's such a great way to look at it. Like I've heard stories where women in their 50s, 60s go into nursing, and I just take my hat off because you find your passion, and if that's your passion, you follow it.
And everyone flowers differently, grows differently, and I think actually everyone should go into healthcare when they're because I had it's such a hard job that sometimes I feel for my younger students that I work with, because I know them. They they're young, they're still like 24, trying to go and party and have their nails done and like this, and they feel a little bit like makes the right turns, and I know a lot of them. I've already done all that.
Yes.
Strictness and the way it must be. So I actually think it's better go and live your life a little bit and then study nursing.
Yes, and then study nursing. No, definitely. Well, Nurse Jacqueline, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really enjoyed hearing your side of being like how you've like educated people and just what they can do at home when you have limited resources, and just the way you've changed your career. It's very commendable of you to be like, you know what, I'm gonna follow my passion and change my life completely. I take my hats off to you.
No, it wasn't easy, but if you have where there's a will, there's a way, and if it's your passion, it will come. And
Definitely.
it's a little bit of suffering and sacrifice for a small part of your life, but it's worth it in the long run.
No, definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I really do hope our listeners also see just the inspiration and the passion from your side. They can hear it in your voice when you speak about it. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.
Perfect. And for all our listeners out there, remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Healthy Talks.